Welcome to another episode of She's Evolving. I'm Elena, a medical endocrinologist, and for over 25 years, I've been studying the intricate dance of hormones and how they shape our lives. But today, we aren't just looking at blood work or prescriptions, we're looking at the heart. We are diving into a topic that is often whispered about in hushed tones or dismissed with a nervous laugh: dating, or choosing not to, at 50 and beyond.
And I'm Julia, a clinical psychologist. My days are spent navigating the landscapes of the human soul, helping women rediscover their worth after the storms of divorce, widowhood, or simply the quiet realization that they've spent decades putting everyone else first. Today, we're asking, what does love, desire, and freedom look like in this new perspective? If you've ever looked at a dating app and felt like a stranger in a strange land, or if you felt a spark of desire and wondered if it was appropriate for your age, this conversation is for you. It's a brave new world, isn't it, Julia? We're at an age where we've accumulated so much: wisdom, stories, maybe a bit of cynicism, but also a profound capacity for joy. Before we dive into the how-to, let's talk about the why. Why is this stage of life so uniquely positioned for a romantic revolution? It's because for the first time for many of us, the biological clock has stopped ticking. The pressure to build a family, to find a provider, or to fit into a societal mold of the perfect wife has largely evaporated. We are left with ourselves, and that is both terrifying and incredibly liberating. Before we get deep into the weeds, I want to invite all our listeners to subscribe to She's Evolving. If this episode resonates with you, share it with a friend. We're building a community of women who aren't just aging, they're ascending. Transition music swells slightly, then settles into a gentle background hum.
You know, Julia, I was thinking about my own journey while preparing for this episode. When I hit 50, I remember looking in the mirror and thinking, okay, the shop is technically closed for reproduction, so does that mean the sign on the door says out of business for romance too? I have this clinical understanding of my body, but emotionally, I felt like a teenager again, clumsy and unsure. I remember my first date after my divorce. I spent an hour trying to hide the fine lines around my eyes with concealer, only to realize halfway through the dinner that the man across from me wasn't looking at my wrinkles. He was looking at the way my eyes lit up when I talked about my work.
That is so relatable, Elena. We become our own harshest critics. In my practice, I see this invisibility syndrome all the time. Women hit 45 or 50 and feel like they've faded into the background of society. I felt it too. After I turned 52, I went through a period where I just stopped trying. I wore the baggy sweaters, the sensible shoes. I told myself I was above the need for male validation. But the truth was, I was scared. I was scared that if I tried to be desirable and failed, it would hurt more than just being invisible. It's a defense mechanism, isn't it? If we don't play the game, we can't lose. But then we miss out on the delights part of our title today. I had a patient last week, let's call her Sarah, who is 56. She's been single for 10 years. She told me she met someone at a local gardening club. She said, "Elena, I haven't felt those butterflies in my stomach since I was 19. I thought those butterflies had died during menopause." We laughed, but it was a revelation for her. Her body was still capable of that chemical rush. And that's the beauty of it. At 50, those butterflies aren't just a hormonal fluke. They are a choice. We are choosing to open our hearts. But let's be honest, the challenges are real. The dating landscape has changed. It's digital, it's fast-paced, and it can feel incredibly superficial. I have clients who tell me that swiping through faces feels like shopping for a used car. It's exhausting. It is. And from a physiological standpoint, our bodies are different. We can't ignore that. When we talk about desire and intimacy at this age, we have to talk about the technical side of things, the stuff people are often too embarrassed to ask their doctors. Let's get into the science for a moment, but keep it between friends. After 50, our estrogen levels have taken a dive. This affects everything: our skin elasticity, our energy levels, and yes, vaginal lubrication. For many women, the physical aspect of dating creates a lot of anxiety. They think, what if it hurts? Or what if I don't look the way he expects? And that physical anxiety feeds right into the psychological barriers. If you're worried about your body, you can't be present in the moment. You're spectatoring, watching yourself from the outside,
worrying about the lighting or the angle of your stomach, instead of feeling the touch of another person. It kills the libido faster than any hormonal drop ever could. Exactly. But here's the clinical secret. The brain is the largest sexual organ. While estrogen might be lower, our testosterone, which women also have, doesn't drop as sharply. In fact, many women find a second peak of libido in their 50s because they finally feel comfortable in their own skin, or because they finally address the mental load of raising children and managing a household. When the house is quiet, the mind can finally wander toward pleasure.
That's a powerful point. The mental load is the ultimate mood killer. In our 50s, we often have more emotional bandwidth. We've learned how to set boundaries. We know what we like and, more importantly, what we absolutely will not tolerate. That's the freedom part of our perspective. When I talk to women in therapy, we work on unlearning the idea that sex and romance are things we give to a partner. At 50, it's something we share for our own enjoyment. I love that, sharing instead of giving. It changes the power dynamic entirely. And medically, there are so many solutions now for the physical changes, from local hormonal therapies to simple lifestyle adjustments. We don't have to suffer in silence. But the biggest medicine is communication. Being able to say to a new partner, "Hey, let's slow down," or "I need this to feel good," is a superpower that only comes with age. It really is. I often tell my clients that their baggage is actually a luxury travel set. You've been places, you've survived things. That makes you interesting, it makes you deep. A 25-year-old might have perfect skin, but a 50-year-old woman has a perfect soul for a real connection.
Let's move into some of the myths we hear all the time. Julia, one of the biggest questions I get is about the market. Women ask, are there even any good men left at 50? Aren't they all looking for 30-year-olds?
Oh, the Leonardo DiCaprio syndrome. It's a classic fear, but the reality is quite different. While some men are indeed chasing youth to mask their own midlife anxieties, a vast number of men in their 50s and 60s are looking for a peer. They want someone who understands their cultural references, someone who has a life of her own, and someone they can actually talk to. They are tired of the performance too. They want authenticity.
And what about the myth that the spark is only for the young? That after a certain age, dating is just about companionship, like finding a roommate to watch Netflix with?
That is such a damaging myth. Companionship is wonderful, but it doesn't have to be devoid of passion. In fact, passion at 50 can be more intense because it's not fueled by reproductive drive. It's fueled by genuine attraction and presence. I've seen couples who met in their 60s who are more in love and adventurous than they ever were in their 20s. I can vouch for that from a health perspective. Falling in love at 50 gives you a massive boost of oxytocin and dopamine, the feel-good hormones. It actually improves your heart health, boosts your immune system, and can even help with chronic pain. Love is a literal tonic for the aging body. Let's talk about the or not part of our title, dating or not. Because freedom also means the freedom to choose solitude. I have many friends and patients who have looked at the dating pool and said, you know what, I'm good. They have their careers, their dogs, their grandchildren, their travel groups, and a vibrator that never forgets their birthday. They aren't lonely, they are solitary by design.
That's a crucial distinction. Being alone isn't a failure. For some women, after decades of caretaking, the ultimate luxury is a bed all to themselves and a schedule that belongs to no one else. Freedom at 50 means you don't need a partner to be a complete person. If you choose to date, it's because that person adds dessert to an already full meal.
Exactly. It's the cherry on top, not the whole sundae. I think that realization actually makes us better at dating. When you don't need the other person to survive or to feel valid, you can see them clearly for who they are. You don't ignore the red flags because you aren't desperate for a lifeboat.
Let's address a listener question we received on Instagram. This is from Marta, age 54. She asks, I want to try dating apps, but I'm terrified of being catfished or worse, being judged for my photos. How do I start? Marta, your fear is totally valid. The digital world is wild. My advice? Be unapologetically you. Don't use filters that make you look like a blurry version of your niece. Use a photo where you are laughing, where your character lines are visible. You want to attract someone who likes the current version of you, not a ghost of who you were 20 years ago. And as for safety, always meet in public. Tell a friend where you are and trust your gut. Your intuition is a muscle you've been building for 50 years. Use it. And Marta, from a doctor's perspective, remember that your energy is your most attractive feature. If you go into a date feeling like you're expired goods, people will sense that. If you go in thinking, I am a woman with a rich history and a lot to offer, that confidence is magnetic. We also get questions about the talk with adult children. Some women feel guilty, like they are betraying their children's memory of their father, or simply that their kids will find it gross. Oh, the mom has a boyfriend awkwardness. It's real. But here's the thing, your children are adults. Their job is to live their lives, and your job is to live yours. Often we project our own shame onto them. Most adult children actually want their parents to be happy. They'd rather see you out at dinner with a nice man than sitting at home waiting for them to call. And if they do find it gross, that's their issue to process in therapy. Seriously though, modeling a healthy, vibrant life at 50 is the best gift you can give your children. It shows them that they don't have to fear getting older. It shows them that life doesn't end at a certain number. As we start to wrap up this conversation, I want to go back to that word, perspective. At 50, we have a vantage point that younger women simply don't have yet. We can see the horizon. We know that time is precious. That awareness of time doesn't have to be sad. It can be a catalyst. It makes every laugh louder, every touch more meaningful, and every moment of freedom more delicious. Whether you are swiping right on an app, flirting with the guy at the bookstore, or sitting on your porch enjoying a glass of wine in blissful silence, you are evolving. Your body is changing, yes. Your roles in life are shifting, but this isn't the sunset of your life, it's the golden hour. You know that time of day when the light is the softest and everything looks most beautiful? That's where we are. If you're listening to this and you've been feeling hesitant, I want you to do one small thing today. Look at yourself in the mirror, really look, and find one thing you love about the woman you've become. Not the woman you were at 25, but the woman who has navigated 5 decades of life. She is a warrior, and she deserves love, in whatever form she chooses.
Thank you for joining us on She's Evolving. This has been such a nourishing talk, Julia. I feel like I need to go home and tell my own reflection a few nice things. Me too, Elena. To all our listeners, you are not alone in this journey. We are right here with you, figuring it out one day at a time. If you enjoyed this episode, please leave us a review and share it with a woman in your life who needs to hear that her best years aren't behind her. They are happening right now. Stay curious, stay bold, and most importantly, keep evolving. We'll see you in the next episode. The music swells to a final, uplifting crescendo before slowly fading out into silence. You know, Julia, as we were discussing the complexities of the modern dating world, there is one specific elephant in the room that we haven't fully addressed yet. It's the digital landscape. For many women our age, the idea of swiping feels completely alien, almost transactional. They remember a time when you met someone through a friend, at a bookstore, or even at work. Now it feels like a digital meat market, and that can be incredibly damaging to a woman's sense of self-worth if she isn't prepared for it. You hit the nail on the head, Elena. The psychological impact of dating apps at 50 is fascinating and, at times, brutal. I have patients who describe it as a second adolescence, but without the safety net of youthful ignorance. There's this fear of the reveal. They think, my profile picture is good, but what happens when he sees the real me, the me without the perfect lighting, the me whose skin has lost some of its elasticity? It's a profound vulnerability. We are essentially putting ourselves out there to be judged by a thumb movement. It triggers all those old insecurities about being enough. But what I always tell them is that these apps are just tools, not mirrors. They don't reflect your value. They only reflect a snapshot of a moment.
And from a physiological standpoint, that stress, that app anxiety, actually has a chemical footprint. When we feel judged or rejected, our cortisol levels spike. For a woman in perimenopause or menopause whose hormones are already in a state of flux, this extra hit of stress can affect sleep, digestion, and even how we carry weight. It's a cycle. You feel stressed about dating, your body reacts, you feel less attractive because you're tired or bloated, and then you retreat. We have to break that cycle by changing the narrative. Dating at 50 isn't about seeking validation for our bodies. It's about finding a companion who appreciates the history written on our skin.
I love that phrase, the history written on our skin. It's so much more poetic than wrinkles. And it leads us to another myth we need to bust, the idea that men our age are only looking for 30-year-olds. While that cliché exists, the reality is often quite different. Many men in their 50s and 60s are also looking for depth, shared references, and a woman who knows who she is. They are often just as intimidated by the process as we are.
Exactly. And let's talk about the physical intimacy part of this new perspective. I get so many questions about libido and physical comfort. Many women feel that they are broken because they don't feel the same urgent desire they did in their 20s. I tell them, your body isn't broken. It's just operating on a different biological clock. Estrogen levels affect lubrication and the speed of arousal, yes, but that doesn't mean the party is over. It just means the pregame needs to be longer and more intentional. Science has so many solutions now, from localized hormonal treatments to non-hormonal moisturizers. But the biggest aphrodisiac at 50 is actually communication.
Communication is the ultimate intimacy. In our 20s, we were often too shy or too performative to say what we actually liked. At 50, we have the freedom of the finish line. We aren't trying to build a family or impress a partner to keep them forever. We are there for the experience itself. There is a magnificent power in saying, "This feels good," or "Actually, I'd prefer this." That level of honesty is incredibly sexy. It's a different kind of desire. It's a desire rooted in self-knowledge rather than biological reproductive drive.
That's a beautiful distinction. It's the shift from, am I desirable to him, to, is this experience desirable to me? It flips the power dynamic. And speaking of power, we have to touch on the delights part of our title. One of the greatest delights of dating, or choosing not to date at this age, is the lack of need. In our younger years, there was often a societal or internal pressure to find a partner to achieve certain milestones. Now, most of us have our own homes, our own careers, our own established circles of friends. If we choose to bring someone into our lives, it's because they add value, not because they fill a void. That is the essence of the new perspective. It's dating from a place of abundance rather than scarcity. And for the women who choose not to date, that is equally valid and can be just as fulfilling. I see so many women flourishing in what I call radical solo living. They are finally the protagonists of their own lives. They travel where they want, they eat what they want, they sleep diagonally across the bed. They aren't alone. They are in their own excellent company. The delight here is the freedom to choose your own rhythm without compromise. It's about reclaiming the word solitude and separating it from loneliness. Loneliness is a gap. Solitude is a presence. Whether you are navigating the dating apps or enjoying a quiet evening with a book and a glass of wine, the goal is the same, to be comfortable in your own skin. As a doctor, I see that when a woman reaches this level of self-acceptance, her health markers often improve. Her blood pressure stabilizes, her sleep deepens, and her overall vitality increases. The evolution we talk about on this podcast is exactly that, moving from the shoulds to the wants.
As we move toward the end of this conversation, Elena,
I'm reminded of a patient who told me, I spent 30 years being the supporting actress in everyone else's movie. My husband's, my children's, my boss's. At 53, I've finally been cast as the lead. Whether she finds a co-star or decides to do a one-woman show, she's the one holding the script now. That's the message I want our listeners to take away. You are the screenwriter of this next chapter. That's such a powerful image, Julia, and it brings us to our final reflections for today. This journey of dating or rediscovering yourself in your 50s isn't a race. There's no trophy for being the first to find a new partner, and there's no penalty for taking a break to just be. Your body is a vessel of wisdom. It has carried you through decades, through challenges, through joys. Treat it with the reverence it deserves. If you decide to share that vessel with someone else, make sure they are worthy of the journey you've traveled. And remember, if you're feeling overwhelmed by the changes, whether they are the hot flashes Elena talks about or the emotional shifts I see in my office, you aren't alone. Every woman you see walking down the street who is our age is navigating some version of this. We are a sisterhood of evolution.
We are redefining what it means to be a woman of a certain age. We aren't fading, we are intensifying. We truly are. This transition, this second spring, as some cultures call it, is an invocation. It's an invitation to look at love, desire, and freedom not as things we lost in our youth, but as things we are finally mature enough to truly handle. Love at 50 is deeper because it's conscious. Desire is richer because it's personal. And freedom? Freedom is the ultimate prize of this stage of life. So, to everyone listening, if you're on the fence about going on that date, or if you're feeling guilty about wanting to stay single, give yourself permission to do exactly what feels right for you today. Not for the you of 10 years ago, and not for the expectations of society, just for the woman you are right now, in this very moment. Your body is changing, your heart is evolving, and your story is far from over. In fact, the most interesting chapters might just be the ones you're writing right now. Thank you for being with us today on She's Evolving. It's been a privilege to share these reflections with you. It really has. If this conversation touched you, if it made you feel a little less invisible or a little more empowered, please share it. Send it to that friend who is hovering over a dating app profile, or to the one who just started her journey of living alone. Let's keep this conversation going. We are all evolving together. Until next time, take care of your body, honor your emotions, and never forget that you are the architect of your own happiness. You are vibrant, you are capable, and you are just getting started.
We'll be here cheering you on. See you in the next episode.